All right. Hello and welcome to this roundup of my favorite historical romance books published in 2022. I'm Olivia, your new favorite resource for book recommendations you can easily screenshot. You're watching Random Olive Reads, and these books are in alphabetical order by author last name, so it's not like from my favorite to my least favorite or anything like that. So we have Duke Most Wicked by Lenora Bell. This is book 3 of the Wallflowers versus Rogues series. We have Viola, who has had a massive crush on her employer for as long as she's known him. Music teacher to his 5 sisters, Viola is pretty much enamored of West and his wicked ways. When he realizes that his behavior has tarnished his sister's reputations, he seeks to make amends by finding a wealthy heiress to marry and suitors for his sisters. Well, Viola is extra protective of the sisters and argues with him on their behalf. Um, Meanwhile, in the background, Viola has secretly been composing music and selling it as her father's, and basically adamantly avoiding any time in the spotlight. West sees her talent and her beauty despite her plain and drab dresses, but believes that he doesn't deserve her sunshine, and overall, she doesn't have any money to contribute to his impoverished state anyway. But overall, it's a great dynamic between our characters, and I love the flirting and banter that they get into. Next, we have Some Dukes Have All the Luck by Christina Britton. This is the first book in her newest series, Sinful Spinsters, and continues in the same universe as her Isle of Sin series. So we have our odd girl, Bronwyn, who aspires to be a published entomologist, much to the dismay of her social climbing parents. They push her to marry a titled gentleman and are even more abrasive after a past heartbreak and a recent lost chance of courtship by a duke. Meanwhile, Ash is trying to recover his runaway wards and shield them from his and his father's poor reputation. They literally bump into each other in the street and unexpectedly meet again at his manor when she visits the playful and inquisitive wards. While they interact again, he gets the bright idea, I'm going to marry a woman who will care for the wards, and then proposes to Bronwyn. We have a delightful marriage of convenience where they spend 2 weeks together for appearance's sake, and then they slowly develop that supportive friendship. I love seeing these two slowly learn to trust each other, but they're both still kind of hanging on to past hurts and betrayal. But I also enjoyed how quick Ash is to defend Bronwyn's intelligence. Basically, any support of a partner's aspirations is a plus in my book. Then we have Indecent by Darcy Burke. This is book 4 of the Phoenix Club series. We have Prudence, who is a lady's companion. She accidentally gets kidnapped by Bennett, the Viscount, because he really wanted to elope with her charge, who was a duke's daughter, because he needed the dowry money. Bennett is super apologetic, very sweet. He needed the money so that he could support his many, many aunts who are mentally ill. With the weather though, Prue and Bennett get stranded at the inn, and this poor guy just can't catch a break. His carriage gets destroyed in the storm. They get stuck there for the time being. They start a friendship, then a dalliance, but he really needs to marry Money, and she has her own personal project where she's looking for her birth mother. Overall, this one was my favorite of the Phoenix Club series, mostly because you would think that a kidnapper would be a rake or some sort of scoundrel, but no, he's just a poor, bumbling, nice guy who wants to take care of his family. Our next book is Lady Meets Earl by Christy Carlyle. This is book 2 of the Love on Holiday series. Doesn't seem connected to the first book from what I can tell, so reads as a standalone. Our poor guy James is being threatened by a loan shark after losing all his money from his shipping business. He has inherited an earldom from his estranged uncle, but finds that estate in debt with only one property potentially worth selling. In another part of town, Lady Lucy is living her ever helpful, nearly spinster life and gets invited to visit her feisty aunt for a while. While traveling to the estate via train, she bumps into James and they make a friendly acquaintance with each other. Unfortunately, they soon find out they've ended up at the same destination. Lucy's aunt is occupying the house that James needs to sell. While this seems like it could be a major conflict, Lucy's pretty mature about this situation and strives for transparency and communication. It's delightful reading about these two, seeing them open up to each other and communicate. Then we have Much Ado About Dukes by Eva Devon. This is book two of the Never a Wallflower series. Again, reads more like a standalone. I didn't see how it was connected to the first book. So we have two fiery and independent people who agree on their political aspirations, but William wants nothing to do with passion or love. We have Beatrice, who needs the Duke's support for her political endeavors, so she continues to seek him out. They are thrown together when his brother wants to marry her cousin, and they slowly strike up a friendship. When she finds that her uncle has lost all of her money, he proposes a marriage of convenience to help her situation. I loved reading these two very supportive friends and partners when they start to team up, and he helps her with her political aspirations. And then we have A Lady for a Duke by Alexis Hall. This is a standalone novel. We have a presumed dead best friend romance here with a trans woman who left her previous name and title after being declared dead in the war. She's now living as a lady's companion to her sister in law and visiting her previous best friend, who's been grief stricken since he believes his best friend had died. They reconnect with a new understanding of each other and their identities, but still have to deal with like the societal expectations of the guy being a duke. This was a very sweet story about finding joy and love with the person you've been connected to your entire life. And basically, Viola's family here is the best, most supportive family ever. And her young nephew is probably my favorite character of the story. Next, we have How to Steal a Scoundrel's Heart by Vivienne LORRET. This is book four of the Mating Habits of Scoundrels series. Prue is our ruined friend who caused her friend group to want to research scoundrels in the first place to prevent other girls from being ruined. Well, Prue found herself seduced by a gentleman, caught, and exiled by her father. Well, now she wants to reclaim the jewelry that she's owed, so she decides larceny is the way to go. On her way back to London, she runs into Leo, a rakish Marquess who is drawn by the naive innocence of Prue. He offers to assist her with her heist, as well as offer protection if she becomes his mistress. I mean, she's ruined anyway, right? I liked learning about Leo's backstory in this story and how he became the dissolute rake that he is. And I absolutely love how warm and smushy and protective he becomes of Prue once he finds out more about her and her background. And then we have Heartbreaker by Sarah MacLean. This is book two of the Hell's Bells series. This one is a road trip romance with a starchy duke and a criminal's daughter. So Adelaide is one of our belles, part of an underground Victorian girl gang network, and she is tasked with protecting a young lady who witnessed a murder. Before she can catch the girl, that girl runs off and elopes with the Duke's brother. This is the same Duke that she had previously run into while stealing something from her father's warehouse. So now Adelaide and Henry are racing each other to find his brother and bride to be until they need to team up together. Henry's got a big, dark, scary secret that he needs to protect, while Adelaide is also trying to hide her connection to her estranged father and overall crime boss. My favorite part of this book is that Adelaide prides herself on being hidden in plain sight, but Henry has always noticed her everywhere and can't understand how anyone could overlook her. I mean, that's like the ultimate sweetness. Next up, I've put Convergence of Desire by Felicity Niven. This is book one of the Lovelocks of London series and available on Kindle Unlimited. We start by meeting our very impoverished Earl, who needs to marry a wealthy woman in order to save his estate. Our second eldest wealthy Lovelock sister is out in society, but she would rather be in her closeted room working on a mathematical proof. Ultimately, she proposes a marriage of convenience to our poor lord, with emphasis that there will be no marital relations and he can continue visiting the brothels as he wishes while she sequesters herself in the country to work. In this story, I love how Thomas immediately notices how frail and weak and overworked Harry is and insists on bringing a doctor to her and seeing to her health. It's a super slow burn build to their friendship, and he is the ultimate caretaker. They're both completely baffled by how much the other person means to them, and this book has delicious payoff. The last third of it will definitely have you tearing up. This one is a new release for December. It is How to Win a Wallflower by SAMARA. It's book 3 of the Rebels with a Cause series. We have our Duke sister, Charlotte, who is the younger sister of the guy from book 2. And she's in her like 4th season and completely uninterested in any suitors. She mostly spends her time helping her brother's political causes and charitable causes. Charlotte is the ultimate do-gooder social butterfly. Also, it took me a while to realize she's not the Wallflower in the story. The Wallflower is actually our guy John, who is Charlotte's brother's friend, who has spent the last 10 years or so away from the London scene working on various scientific inventions. He's back in town though because his older brother died, leaving him as the new Viscount and in a whole hell of a lot of debt. John needs to figure out a way to pay off all these debts so that he can go back to his very solitary lifestyle in a cabin in the woods. Of course, Charlotte has had a crush on John for years and years, so she decides to help him with his little debt problem. They need to work together, they get closer, even though our dear brother Duke has warned each of them away from the other person. We'll see how that actually turns out. Next up is A Matter of Temptation by Stacy Reid. This one is a completely standalone novel. So we have here forced proximity, a grumpy Earl, a totally bold and intelligent ruined woman. This one has all the elements I love in a historical romance. We have a lady who disguises herself as her brother to fight a duel with an Earl and ends up earning his respect instead. One, because she's an excellent fighter, and two, um, he realizes that she gives as good as she gets. And then even more so that she's a woman. He hires her on as his secretary after seeing her skill and intelligence. The forced proximity here is perfect, even though she's holding on to some secrets of her past. And of course, he's a political do-gooder fighting for the rights of the common man and woman, stuff like that. Ultimate grumpy sunshine pairing here. And then, of course, this book gets bonus points for being kind of weird, but it's still considered historical. We have Angelica Frankenstein Makes Her Match by Sally Thorne. We have poor, sweet, kind of spoiled Angelica, who is the sister of Victor Frankenstein, the mad scientist. While she's assisting him with his science project, she makes a creation of her own to be her suitor. Well, the guy she creates has a very strong moral fiber. And even though he's attracted to her, he doesn't act on it because he has no memory of who he is and he might be tied to someone else. So then we start sort of the mystery part of the story where they team up to try to find this guy's identity. In the meantime, Angelica does catch the attention of another man. There's a tiny bit of love triangle happening, but it's not that big a deal. It's just kind of crazy how we're rooting for Angelica to get together with this monster man, and it's really humorous. I definitely recommend this book. Overall, it was a great year for historical romance, and thanks so much for watching this video. Links to all the books I've talked about are in the description box. Like and subscribe so you don't miss future videos, and you can follow me on Instagram at randomolive.